Hey, so welcome back to the RV Solar Channel. Today we're working on a Alliance Paradigm fifth wheel. Going to do a 24 volt system in it. My name's Sean, and over here behind me is Bear. He's our dog, shop dog. You may see him around. A lot of people like him. I like him a little bit too. I like him a lot. Anyway, we are going to be installing Victron solar equipment, multi-plus 2x120. For those of you that really would say, why are you doing 24 volts? Well, in the Victron world, if you do a single inverter, you need the 2x120 inverters, and they only come in 12 and 24 volts right now. I'll show you that a little bit later. We're going to be putting together the board. I'm going to show you how we arrange the components, our thought process behind it. If this video might serve as a guide if you're looking to do it yourself, or you're just curious what we do and what you're paying for. And that's what we like to do here, and maybe provide a little bit of entertainment. We're not going to be doing a ton of solar on here. Customer is saying that they're going to mostly rely on the batteries. Speaking of batteries, we are going to be doing got to figure out how many fingers I got. 4 Epic 100 amp hour self-heating 24 volt batteries. So that's going to be fun. 7-inch touchscreen, all that fun stuff, and we'll hook it all up, get it going in here. We are in, I would say, I don't know if extended summer, fall here in Minnesota. It's not that bad. Mid-October, we got a great project ahead of us. Let's go. Let me show you where we're at and the problems we're going to start solving. So let me grab my coffee here, and yeah, it says over the hill. I'm over 40, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I've been telling people lately I'm close to 40. I'm actually 42 now, but that's still close, relatively close. That's the way I figure it. Let's talk about how we're putting everything on the board. Here is the solar shop. We got some chips for if we get hungry. And here is all the equipment we're going to be putting on here. Now, lately, last couple of videos, for those of you that watch a lot of our videos, you'll notice that this is a little less put together than typically when we show this part of it. But I thought I want to show a little bit more of the thought process on how we do it. So what I did was I took a measurement of that compartment, and not just the compartment, but actually the opening. And I came up with 52 inches wide. So I put a mark here, and then we're going to do about 21 inches tall. That's here. Okay. So why that's important is it's got to be able to get through the door. And then with that, I can kind of come up with an arrangement, and then down here, cut a board. And then usually we cover it with some fabric to make it look nice. Sometimes we'll paint it. We'll do a couple different things from time to time. What I really wanted to talk about in this segment was what I call flow and trying to avoid traffic jams. And speaking of the flow master right here, this is JD. He's continually working on his bus.
That'll be another 10-year project.
10-year project. Well, it's going to snow soon. We're trying to kick him out of here before it gets too snowy. And
it was brisk this morning, that's for sure.
Yeah. This is for those new viewers. That's what you are. This is JD.
Howdy.
He runs Soda Solar in Arizona, and he's prepping to leave. He's got a brand new bus.
I gotta get there.
Yep.
That's the toughest part.
Hoping to share all about that new bus here, but
in due time.
Yep. Well, I don't want to keep you.
Yeah,
I'm going to keep.
What's going on here?
Well, we're just talking about how we arrange the components and the thought process behind it.
Ooh.
And it's important to do that. Now, the good news is this is 2-watt wiring that we're running in here because it's a 24 volt system. But I was trying to think about how the power is going to flow into this system. So I think about, I don't want to have my power input wires crossing my output wires, especially to the multi-plus, because they're so big and beefy.
That raceway gets clogged up quick.
Yep. Yeah, speaking of that, we typically use raceway, and I just have some little cutoffs here for spacers, especially space in between here. And we like to mount these, the Lynx distributor here, upside down, a lot of times because then you can get some straight shots to all your other components rather than flipping it right side up, at least to the labeling. And we'll talk about that here in a second. Otherwise, you end up having to do a lot of loops and this and that. So what we'll end up having is the shut off here, the battery monitor here. So the main positive will come in here, main negative come in here, and then all the power will flow up and out here. And that should be nice and smooth. Now, if you're worried about that label, well, we got that covered right there. Victron ships.
Covered.
Oh, can you tell he's a dad? Yeah, Victron ships a label to reverse the orientation of all their Lynx products. So never be afraid to mount these upside down. We do it, I would say, more often than not. We got the 70 amp charger. So they've got plenty of room to upgrade their solar in the future, even though we're not doing a ton right now. Got the step down converter. A lot of people talk about that. It's a 70 amp converter, so it'll take 24 volts, give you 70 amps of 12 volts out. Did I say that right? Takes in 24, out 12?
Yes.
All right. And then, of course, the servo display. And I am going to put a shutoff or a breaker on the output of this, also to make sure that we can disconnect it. And we'll talk about that later, why all that stuff is important. And of course, star of the show, I would say, is the MultiPlus 3000 2x120. So that means it takes 4 wires, your 50 amp in, and it will then join your 2 hot legs when it's on inverting power to make all the outlets work, everything available to you and your RV. So it just feels like you're on shore power all the time. But enough talking about this. I've got to get to work. So I got the board here ready to go. And what I like to do when I'm doing this indoor-outdoor carpet, this is called Auto Marine. We're doing some black stuff today. I'll use a 3M 90 high-strength contact adhesive. And what you do, or what I like to do, is just put it up here like this, get my piece cut out, and then I just spray both sides. I'll spray the wood side and here and let it tack up a little bit, and then you just set it down. And then you take this, right? You take the spray, and then you go along the edges, go along these edges and spray both the wood and this part, wrap it over, and you cut the corners, and usually it doesn't take more than about 5-10 minutes to do. All right, so here it is with the all the adhesive on there. That's the way it looks, and then you just go boom, like that. And that's gonna stick on there, and then you just go around the edges. This is the way it kind of comes out. And don't worry about getting all of it, because you can trim that off later. Good utility knife is critical for this, and you can make sure to get the edges too. But then you can get it all in one shot without having to worry about your overspray quite so much. That's the way I like to do it anyway. I got this trimmed up and ready to flip it over. And there may be some dust or whatever on it, but usually we can brush that off without too much problems. Brush it off or blow it off with some compressed air or a little shop vacuum. So this is ready to go. Our blank canvas ready to go, so let's go. All right, this is how the sausage gets made, ladies and gentlemen. Wanted to talk about mounting a MultiPlus sideways. A lot of people say don't do it, and I generally would agree. Vertical is best, but it doesn't always work that way in the real world. So what we are going to do is mount it sideways, and as long as you got enough ventilation, you're okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually hang the back of it here off of the end of the board, and the board is actually going to be offset away from the back wall. It'll make sense once you see it, so definitely stick around. Watch to the end. And that's going to provide plenty of ventilation and shouldn't be a problem. But when you mount sideways, I do recommend using these clips and not the screw holes here. So typically, if I show you real quick here, there's a couple of mounting holes here. We use these for the bottoms, and I definitely recommend doing that here, but not here, and I'll tell you why. The only way to get at the fasteners here is you got to take off all of these. And, just think it through. If this is down, how you getting a screwdriver in there? It ain't happening. Put the back plate on here, and then I put some kind of support here. Today I'm stepping it up a little bit. A lot of times we'll just use a piece of plywood, painted black, or some sort of material here just to support it here. But I got some extra 80/20 aluminum. And so that's what we're doing. And so that's going to support it this side, and then the screws here will support it there. And guess where this is going? Come on, all the dads say it in unison. It ain't going anywhere. We got Bear taking a nap over there. He had a hard day, barking at the Amazon drivers and stuff. Anyway, got everything wired up here. This is what the board's going to look like, and as you can tell, it's much easier to wire all this up, or you can imagine, rather than doing it in the RV later. So what I'm going to do next is do the programming on the MultiPlus. That requires a computer or an Android phone. Sorry, I got Apple stuff. You can do that with your USB-C. I'm going to do the GUI mods update on the servo. Going to update firmware and settings on the solar charger and program the battery. So, without further ado, let's see what happens here. Oh. We got a green light there. We got a MultiPlus on. We've got a servo on. We've got... That's probably on. It should be. All right, yep. Oh, and if you're curious about what specific settings to use, this is a 24-volt system. A lot of times you can look at the battery manufacturers will give you voltages, float voltages, that sort of stuff. That's really what we're doing. And we're updating firmwares across everything. There are some things we got to do on the MultiPlus, like update its firmware, set it for lithium batteries, that sort of stuff. There are other videos out there that show you how to do that. Maybe someday we will do our own, but I don't want to try and just be noise. But if you want to see my take on that, let me know in the comments down below. Love to hear from you. Hey, you're still there. I haven't scared you off with my crazy antics and I don't know, slowly losing my mind. Still working on the Paradigm here. Hopefully trying to finish it up today, at least this part of it. We may add another solar panel on it. Stick around, find out. See how it goes. But I want to talk about how I made all my connections, how I installed all the Victron equipment, the MultiPlus, integrated with the solar charger, integrated with the rest of the RV system, being that this is a 24 volt, and how ran the wires for the servo display, and how we manage powering it and that sort of stuff. So if that interests you, keep watching. If you want to see more of that kind of stuff, subscribe. And if you're just kind of in the middle, just give a thumbs up. That's fine too. All right. This is where I've got it so far. Got the board mounted in here, and ended up putting a couple of holes. Put a hole here to pull some equipment through, or it's not equipment, some wires through. This is going to be for the MultiPlus, the input and output. I don't know which one is which yet. We find that out after we hook them up. That's the way I like to do it. We hooked up our solar, and I'll show you how that is going right now. So there's this panel right here you can pull away, and it hides this mess of wires. There's a PV plus right here, and this is PV plus. This is PV minus, and I just extended those. And I like to heat shrink over the positive when I do the butt splices, just because I don't know, sometimes there can be some tears that develop in there, so I like a little extra protection. Integrated to the chassis ground here for this part of the system, so I got a negative from the DC, or from the Lynx DC bus, and it comes through that hole there, and it hits that ground there. That provides grounding for the entire system as well as the 12 volt ground. And then we take the output of the Orion here, it goes into this breaker. That's going to be important later. And then it comes out of here through the hole into here, and I thought about tying it into that bus bar back there, which there's no reason why you can't do that. But I like to try and keep my systems as stock as possible. So what I ended up doing is I tied it back here to the back side of this switch. So now I got 3 wires coming in here. And basically I tied the battery that's down here into here. So if you turn this off, even though I got a 24 volt system here, although there's no batteries yet, but if I turn this off, you can see that the light turned off. So this shut-off switch still turns off the 12 volt. Makes sense? Makes sense to me. Also pulled out the Renogy charger that was in there that was up against the wall back there. So that's how I took care of that. When I'm getting ready to do these main connections here, what I'd like to do is strip back, geez, almost like 6-7 inches, maybe more, of this insulation, and then feed those through and leave almost that full 6 inches here, and then you make these loops that come up and then in. You'll see how it works here in a little bit. But that's what I find works the best for putting these in. What else? What else? I can't think of anything right now. All right. Here's the back side of that wall, and so that goes through a hole there and then through my main board on the other side. Got the HDMI, got our AC mains here. We'll end up putting the excess in here. I like to leave some service loops available. I think that's really important. Hey, this is where the solar comes down, I bet. Interesting. So that's running up here. We'll cover that in some conduit of some kind, make it look nice and pretty. It runs back into there, both of those lines, or all three of them. Then we end up over here at the panel, the main panel. We pull that out, and then what we end up doing is I'll land them on the inverter first, these two AC lines here, that's what I call them. And whichever one has voltage, when I turn on the inverter, that's the one that I feed power to the panel, and then the other one, I make a splice on the wire that used to come in there, splice those together, and then run it back to the multiplus. And there you go. Then as far as the servo display goes, what we're gonna do is deep in there, you can see there's a chase that runs from there down to there, all the way under there. And I used some fish tape here, ran a line down there, and then pulled this HDMI cord up through there. And we're gonna mount it right there. And you might think, hey, Sean, that was a bad hole that you made there. You're kind of right, but I didn't make all of the hole. There used to be a generator control here, but rather than disconnect it or something, because they don't have a generator, they don't have an onboard generator. So what I did was just made the hole a little bit bigger and shoved that entire thing in there, so that way that is available to them if a generator were to be in their future. But beauty of these systems is you can get away with a small generator. So then this guy is going to go right there in its place. Isn't that nice? Now the trick with these 7-inch screens is you can't power them from the servo with these 25-foot extensions. You have to use a USB power adapter here, like this. So what this does is takes 12 volts, and I just found, real simple, I found a negative and a positive somewhere here. Yeah, it's this one right here. Here's a positive, and this is the way the wiring is from the factory. Don't blame me. I do like all these lever nut Wago connectors. It definitely makes making a connection like this super easy. You just strip the wires, put them in an open or a small lever nut connection, or one that already has a small wire in it. I feel you can double land those. And then this puts out simple USB power to power the screen. If you don't do this, you can definitely burn out the servo. It just can't push the amps consistently enough to drive the 7-inch screen. The 5-inch screens, no problem. But the 7s, you're gonna have problems. So I am about ready to actually, I think I can hook this up. Oh, look at that. That's pretty neat. All right, now I'm just like to, I like to take a little bit of tape and tape that connection up so it doesn't come loose. And you can button that back up, and then gotta hook up the inverter, and then I can put that up, button that back together. Shoot, this is coming together. All right, got a little temp battery set up, so this guy is happy. And well, actually the inverter's off right now, but that's because I turned it off from the servo screen. But I want to show you how I made the connections here. All right, got our AC wiring done. Remember, we took the AC output of the Multiplus. Comes out this wire. We verified that by putting a trusty multimeter on it when we hooked up the turned on the Multiplus rather, and then connect the input of the Multiplus up to this wiring here. And what we have going on here is a box and these what I call aluminum splices here. And what we're doing is we're putting both ends in this terminal here. You can fit both of them in there. These will take up to 2 gauge wire, but 2 6s fit in there. And I like that because then both of the copper pieces, as you can see here, are touching, and we're not necessarily relying on the aluminum splice to make the connection. So I'm about ready just to heat shrink all these up, tuck them in the box, and then put the box back there, and we're good to go. Up on the roof here of the Alliance, and put another one of these panels up here. This is actually one we pulled off from a different Alliance, so it matches it perfect. We ended up putting it in series because I think you're going to get better power out of that with just 2 panels like this. And I moved it to the side in case customer wanted to add more in the future, which is kind of part of the plan, so that way they can put those 200 watt panels in there, and you could put that you could run a parallel string with those, but when you put them in series, you got to try and match them. So anyway, that's what's going on here. Nothing special. Solar on an RV. Well, let's finish up this Alliance Paradigm, shall we? But we're in a different location, aren't we? Well, there ended up being a little snag in the process here. We were trying to get some more Epic batteries for this customer, but they got lost in the mail. So they just showed up, so I came up to this customer's farm to actually finish the battery install, walk over the system with him, and so I want to show you how it turned out. All right, here we go. Got all 4 batteries put in here. Everything's working good. Cleaned up real nice. Got access to pretty much all of our switches, even our lights. That's the important part when you're putting something like this together. Can you get at everything? And I thought we were able to here. What we ended up doing was kind of nesting these batteries, kind of so they're not lining up even, but it does let you pack them in a little bit tighter. And as you can see, we just got enough room for clearance to pull the Lynx distributor cover off to change those fuses if we need to. So that's the way this turned out here. Then inside here, this is how that turned out. Batteries are pretty much almost full, and then they'll be good to go. Went through all the finer points on this system. Again, we're using GUI mods here, so the customer can adjust their input current limit very quickly. We talked about doing that with a small generator, things like that, and they can quickly adjust their inverter if they want it on or inverter only, turn it off, that sort of stuff. The other thing I was going to mention is I tell my customers this is a great way to diagnose any power issues. So the input voltage here, if you see 0 on that but your generator is still running, check to make sure it didn't overload and trip or something like that. Great way to diagnose potential issues. And you can tell it is a little chilly here, but don't worry, the batteries are still charging because they're heated. So that's it from us this week on this project. And you can tell there's snow on the ground. It's getting cold up here in Minnesota, but we still got plenty more fun. So stick around on the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, you can go ahead and hit that. Doesn't cost you anything. Doesn't cost me anything even. But we'd love to have you along. You can check us out at sotasolar.com, spelled like this with an R at the end, so you don't get confused. There's a lot of different ways to spell solar these days, I think. Anyway, yeah, we'll check you out. What are we going to do? No, I will see you next time. That's when you'll see us too, when we do a new video. I can't talk.